Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. We're outside again today at the mercy of various buses and lawnmowers and other people making a noise. You know what it's like on a summer's day in England. But I thought I would just do a quick video today talking about a fantastic concert I went to last week. I went to see Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets at the Manchester Apollo, and I'll show you the CD. I'd got this CD already anyway. I bought this when it came out a few years ago now. Nick Mason, obviously the drummer from Pink Floyd, through all those years, the only drummer that they ever had. He stuck with them through thick and thin, through all the Waters and Gilmour wars, and then going back into the mists of time into the 1960s. He was their original drummer back in the 1960s. Nick's always been one of my favourite people in the world of rock music. He's an avuncular figure these days, good-humoured, just a lovely man. If you've seen interviews with him, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's just got a very charming, humorous way about him. That came through in the concert. I'll tell you about that in a moment. 2018, Nick Mason was approached by, now let me get the name right, he was approached by Lee Harris, the guitarist from the Blockheads, strangely enough, who floated the idea to Nick, what about doing a psychedelic tribute to the early Pink Floyd? And you know, the idea being that you try to celebrate and shine a spotlight on the band's early career from the first album up through to, well, what they decided, I think, finally was to go up to Medal, up to and including Medal, which was, I think, was 1971 or 1972. And so you're really looking at that period of the Floyd's music before they struck pay dirt with Dark Side of the Moon in 73. So Nick was enthused by the idea, and they got a band together consisting of Lee Harris on guitar, Nick on drums obviously, Guy Pratt, who'd been the bass player in the David Gilmour incarnation of Floyd in the 80s and 90s, and a guy called Dom Becken on keyboards. He'd been in a band with Guy Pratt called the Transit Kings. So essentially they got the band together, and they just, you know, they do what it says on the tin really. They do a kind of psychedelic light show, which is genuine oil, like an oil slideshow. It's not slides exactly, but they do a thing with oils and they project them onto the screen. Nick's got his one of the drum kits I think he used back in the Floyd days. It's a twin bass drum set. It looks really, really great actually. It's got the drum skins with the Japanese artwork on, with the, you know, with the ocean wave. He was using that, I think, in the pre-Dark Side days. It was great to see that on stage actually. I mean, I've long admired that drum kit, you know, with that particular artwork in books and magazines over the years, and just to see it on stage when I came into the venue, it was just a really great moment, you know. And so I kind of knew what to expect because I had the live CD. There were a few changes. They made a few changes over the years. They've been around since 2018. They've done various tours. They've toured Europe, I think. They've toured America. You know, Nick is not a spring chicken anymore. I'm not quite sure how old he is, but he must be pushing, he must be 75, and still playing great. It was quite nice actually. Some point during the concert, quite early on I think, they showed some images on the screen as he was playing of him back in the day, you know, wearing his bandana. He used to wear a cowboy hat as well, you know, with the mutton chop sideburns and the moustache, and I think it was from the Live at Pompeii film and various other bits of footage they found of him. I mean, he's such a rock legend, you know. It's so funny, I last saw him with Pink Floyd, with David Gilmour's incarnation of Pink Floyd, on the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour back in 1987 at Manchester Main Road, and I at the time was 16, and back then it seemed to me that Nick and the others, you know, it was David Gilmour and Rick Wright, they just seemed like rock legends already. But looking back, they were only in their mid-40s. I was 16, and here I am now at the age of 53. I'm still going to see Nick Mason. You know, Nick is still playing. I mean, it's just quite extraordinary. Rick Wright, of course, is no longer with us, but it was quite an emotional experience, really. Let me just quickly show you some records, so you're not just staring at my face. So this is the catalogue minus one record, which I forgot to pull, unfortunately. I'll show this one first. This is the Nice Pair compilation, which came out in maybe 74. This was the one that collected together the first two Floyd albums, Piper at the Gates of Dawn and Saucerful of Secrets, which has lent its name to Nick's new venture. And this was my first exposure to early Floyd. I first heard this, would have been maybe 1979, 1980, when Brick in the Wall Part 2 came out, and my dad bought me this record from Boots in Chester, I think it was. And you know, I sat in my room listening to these songs, these strange songs by Syd Barrett, Astronomy Domine, which opened the concert, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I actually had tears pouring down my face when they broke into that song. It was such an emotional moment. It's that thing where a band or an artist goes, you know, really far back for you, back into the mists of time, back into your childhood, and you associate them with sort of happy memories. And, you know, my dad bought me this record, and you know, he's gone now, and when they started that song and I heard Nick playing the drums, you know, that big, that sort of pounding, almost timpani-like drum part in that song, I was just momentarily overcome, and, you know, I had tears pouring down my face, but why not, you know, I mean, that's the power of music, isn't it? So from the first album they did Astronomy Domine, they did Lucifer Sam, which is the kind of James Bond like sort of guitar rocker that Syd wrote, all about his pet cat. And the only other song they did from the first album actually was The Scarecrow, which I think Guy Pratt sung that one. Very, very authentic sounding, you know, they really do a good job of replicating the music. I guess I suppose you could say it's a tribute show really, but it's done well, and because you've got Nick Mason there on drums, it kind of stops it being a pure tribute. From Saucerful of Secrets, they did Rick's great song Remember a Day, which was probably his attempt at the time to write a Syd Barrett-like song. You know, it was after Syd had left the band, and it's just a lovely English reverie really, all about childhood, you know, again quite magical. So that was the material they did from the first album. They didn't do Bike, unfortunately, but you know, you can't have everything. And from Relics they did this was the compilation album again from the early 70s. They did a few songs from this. They did the singles, of course, Arnold Lane and See Emily Play. Both very authentic, both with great psychedelic light shows behind them. You know, really, really great to hear those songs done live. And then also from this record they did with two more songs actually, the Nile song, which is a great heavy track, heavy guitars, not the usual kind of thing that Floyd did, but it's long been a favourite of mine. And they closed the set actually, I think, with Careful With That Axe, Eugene, which was on this record. I think a live version of that was also on Ummagumma, wasn't it, I think? Yeah. Second track on side one of Ummagumma, the live album that they did in 1969, and again that was just great. I will say it's surprising because I'm such a big fan of Syd Barrett, and the general narrative has been for many years that first Floyd album, you know, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, the Syd Barrett songs were a work of genius, and then you had this intervening period in between him leaving and them doing, say, you know, Meddle or Dark Side, where they were supposedly feeling their way and trying to find a sound, and they'd lost their creative genius and all this stuff. But at that gig I really felt that the Syd Barrett songs, they were not as impressive. They seemed more like period pieces, I dare to say, whereas the post-Syd stuff, in particular when they did Atom Heart Mother and Echoes, so they did they did a kind of strange amalgamation of the track Atom Heart Mother mixed in with the Roger Waters song If, which comes from side 2 of that record, and that worked really well. It was really majestic, but the song that really brought the house down, their version of Echoes from side 2 of Meddle, it was absolutely mesmerising. It was incredibly loud, extremely well done. I completely forgot to mention, apologise, Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet, also in the band on guitar and vocals too. He did a fantastic job. doing some of the psychedelic guitar sounds and textures on Echoes, and that song brought the house down. There was a huge round of applause, well, more than a round of applause, a huge, you know, cheer from the audience, packed out audience. It was a really good crowd, and it wasn't just old people as well. I turned up there in my Sergeant Pepper t-shirt, expecting just to see a load of middle-aged men in old, you know, t-shirts from the 60s and 70s, but there was a fair few younger people there as well. But that was a fantastic version of Echoes. And just a quick look at the gatefold. Where's Nick? There he is there. Looks very different nowadays, of course. But yeah, the Sid stuff I thought was nice, but it sounded a bit like 60s period pieces. The 70s stuff sounded more visionary. It's quite interesting because, you know, like I said, the established narrative is that period of Floyd was them feeling their way and, you know, not quite knowing what they were doing. And those albums, Atom Heart Mother and Umagumma, they do get quite a bad press, but those tracks, I don't know whether it was because of just the modern sound system or the way that they'd reinterpreted them, they came across as just very, very modern sounding. You could almost think I'm listening to Sigur Rós or some other post-rock band. You can sort of clearly see the Floyd's influence. That, I think, from that particular era, you know, it's maybe 68, 69, 70. And I guess, you know, that's the idea of the show, really, is trying to shine a spotlight on that music, which is less well known. So it was just a magical evening. I'm so pleased I went. The funniest part of the show, Nick had a gong behind him on the stage, and he pretended to be getting a phone call on his mobile phone from Roger Waters, asking him where his gong was, which was a very funny joke, I thought. And he made a couple of other quips about Roger, which went down quite well. But he comes across as such a nice man, very unassuming, not a rock star at all, you know, but somebody who's just been at the heart of this legendary band now for decades, so many years. And as I said, it was quite an emotional experience, and it left me feeling good, actually, sort of drained. It was cathartic, but it was just a really enjoyable show. I'm just really, really pleased I went. So yeah, I recommend it if you get a chance to see the show. I don't know how many more years they're going to be around. Like I said, Nick is no spring chicken anymore, but if you do get a chance to see the show, Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets. If you're a Floyd fan, if you're a fan of 60s psych music, psychedelic music, I definitely recommend it. Anyway, that will do for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.